Maria Rodriguez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she adjusted her hairnet for the third time that morning. The massive military base cafeteria buzzed with the usual breakfast crowd, but she knew the real chaos would begin at lunch. For 2 years, she had been serving meals to soldiers, officers, and personnel at Fort Henderson, one of the largest military installations on the East Coast. Most days blended together in a routine of scooping portions, wiping down trays, and exchanging brief pleasantries with the endless stream of hungry faces. At 28, Maria had never imagined herself working in a military kitchen. She had studied nursing for 3 years before financial troubles forced her to drop out and find steady work. The cafeteria job paid the bills and allowed her to send money home to her mother in Puerto Rico, but it wasn't exactly her dream career. Still, she took pride in her work, always ensuring the food was served hot and the dining area remained spotless. The morning passed quickly as Maria and her fellow kitchen workers prepared for the lunch rush. Today felt different somehow, though she couldn't put her finger on why. Perhaps it was the unusual number of officers she had noticed during breakfast, or the way the kitchen supervisor kept checking his watch and whispering into his radio. The base had been buzzing with rumors all week about an important visit, but nobody seemed to know exactly who was coming or when. As 11:30 approached, Maria noticed increased security throughout the cafeteria. Military police officers stationed themselves at various points, and she spotted several men in dark suits conducting what appeared to be security sweeps of the dining area. The kitchen staff was told to maintain normal operations, but the tension in the air was unmistakable. Whatever was happening, it was big. Maria finished arranging the serving stations and checked that all the warming trays were properly heated. The lunch menu featured grilled chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and fresh rolls. Nothing fancy, but hearty food that the soldiers appreciated. She had developed a rhythm over the years, able to serve each person quickly while still taking a moment to smile and ask how their day was going. These small interactions had earned her a reputation as one of the friendliest faces in the cafeteria. The first wave of lunch customers began arriving just before noon. Maria took her position behind the serving counter, ladle in hand, ready for another busy afternoon. She noticed more officers than usual, their dress uniforms pressed to perfection and their demeanor more formal than the typical lunch crowd. Something important was definitely happening, but she focused on her job, greeting each person warmly and ensuring they received generous portions of the carefully prepared food. As the lunch rush intensified, Maria fell into her familiar routine. Scoop, serve, smile, repeat. She had served hundreds of meals this way, treating each person with the same courtesy regardless of their rank or position. Today would test that routine in ways she could never have imagined, transforming an ordinary lunch service into a moment that would change her life forever and potentially save someone else's. At exactly 12:15, a commotion near the cafeteria entrance caught Maria's attention. A group of high-ranking officers entered, their movements precise and coordinated. In the center of the group walked a man whose presence commanded immediate respect from everyone in the room. Even from behind the serving counter, Maria could see the multiple stars on his uniform that marked him as a general. Not just any general, but someone of extraordinary importance. The kitchen supervisor rushed over to Maria's station, his face flushed with nervous excitement. He whispered urgently that General Patterson, the base commander and one of the most powerful military figures in the region, would be eating lunch in the cafeteria today. This was highly unusual, as officers of his rank typically dined in private quarters or exclusive facilities. The decision to eat with the regular troops was apparently part of a morale-building initiative, but it had the kitchen staff on edge. Maria watched as the general security detail discreetly positioned themselves throughout the dining area. The man himself appeared relaxed and approachable, stopping to shake hands with soldiers and asking about their duties and families. Despite his rank and obvious importance, he seemed genuinely interested in connecting with the personnel under his command. When he approached the serving line, Maria felt her heart rate increase, but she reminded herself to treat him like any other customer. General Patterson moved through the line with surprising casualness, chatting with each kitchen worker and thanking them for their service. When he reached Maria's station, he smiled warmly and complimented the aroma of the food. She served him a generous portion of chicken and vegetables, noting how he insisted on carrying his own tray, despite offers of assistance from his aides. His down-to-earth manner impressed her, and she found herself relaxing as they exchanged a few friendly words about the meal. After serving the general, Maria continued with her duties, occasionally glancing toward the VIP table where he sat with several other high-ranking officers. The conversation appeared animated, with the general gesturing expressively as he spoke. She noticed that he ate with obvious enjoyment, even requesting seconds of the mashed potatoes from one of her colleagues. His appreciation for the simple cafeteria meal seemed genuine, not the polite pretense she might have expected. The lunch service continued smoothly, with Maria serving dozens of other personnel while keeping one eye on the distinguished visitors' table. Everything appeared normal, just another successful meal service with an added element of excitement due to the general's presence. The security personnel remained alert but relaxed, and the general seemed to be enjoying both his food and his conversations with the other officers. As the meal progressed, Maria began to feel proud that their kitchen had performed so well under pressure. The food was hot, the service efficient, and the general appeared satisfied with his dining experience. She allowed herself a moment of satisfaction, thinking that this would be a story she could tell for years to come, the day she served lunch to one of the most powerful men on the base. Little did she know that the real story was just beginning, and that her observational skills and quick thinking would soon be put to a test that went far beyond serving food. About 20 minutes into the meal, Maria noticed a subtle change in General Patterson's behavior. From her position behind the serving counter, she had a clear view of his table, and something seemed off. The general had stopped eating and was leaning back in his chair, one hand pressed against his chest. At first, she thought he might simply be full or engaged in intense conversation, but his facial expression suggested discomfort rather than satisfaction. The other officers at the table continued talking, apparently unaware of any problem. General Patterson nodded occasionally and even managed to smile when directly addressed, but Maria could see he was struggling. Having grown up helping care for her diabetic grandfather, she had learned to recognize the subtle signs when someone wasn't feeling well. The general's complexion had grown pale, and she noticed small beads of perspiration forming on his forehead, despite the comfortable temperature in the dining hall. Maria found herself torn between her duties and her growing concern. She tried to convince herself that she was overreacting. After all, what could a cafeteria worker know about the health of a high-ranking military officer? Surely his own staff and security detail would notice if something was seriously wrong. Yet something in her gut told her that the general was in distress, and her nursing training, incomplete though it was, made her hypersensitive to signs of medical emergency. The general attempted to take a sip of water but set the glass down quickly, his hand trembling slightly. This confirmed Maria's suspicions that something was seriously wrong. She watched as he loosened his collar discreetly and continued to press his hand against his chest. The symptoms she was observing could indicate several serious conditions, but one possibility particularly alarmed her. The signs were consistent with a heart attack. Looking around the dining hall, Maria realized that none of the security personnel or other officers had noticed the general's distress. They were focused on scanning for external threats and maintaining their professional demeanor, not watching for medical emergencies from within their own group. The general himself seemed determined to maintain his composure and not draw attention to his condition, perhaps hoping the discomfort would pass or not wanting to cause alarm during what was supposed to be a routine morale visit. Maria faced a difficult decision. Should she abandon her post and potentially embarrass herself if she was wrong about the general's condition? What if she was overreacting to normal behavior and created an unnecessary scene? On the other hand, what if she was right and the general was having a serious medical emergency that could prove fatal without immediate intervention? Her incomplete nursing education had taught her that heart attacks could be subtle, especially in their early stages, and that quick action often meant the difference between life and death. The general attempted to stand, presumably to leave, but immediately sat back down, this time unable to hide a grimace of pain. That settled it for Maria. Whatever the consequences to her job or reputation, she couldn't stand by and watch someone potentially die when she might be able to help. Taking a deep breath and steeling herself for what might come, she made the decision that would transform her from an ordinary cafeteria worker into a hero. Without hesitation, Maria untied her apron and stepped out from behind the serving counter. Her heart pounded as she walked across the dining hall toward the general's table, knowing that dozens of eyes would soon be on her. The security personnel noticed her approach immediately, and she could see them tensing, ready to intercept what they might perceive as a potential threat to their principal. Maria raised her hand slightly to show she meant no harm and addressed the nearest security officer in a calm but urgent voice. She explained that she had been observing the general and believed he might be experiencing a medical emergency. The officer looked skeptical and started to wave her away, but Maria persisted, explaining her nursing background and describing the specific symptoms she had observed. Her professional manner and obvious concern seemed to give the officer pause. At that moment, General Patterson attempted to stand again, and this time his distress was unmistakable. His face had gone ashen, and he gripped the edge of the table for support. The sudden change in his condition validated Maria's concerns and prompted immediate action from his security team. One of the officers immediately radioed for medical assistance while another helped guide the general back to his chair. Maria approached the table and addressed the general directly, introducing herself and asking permission to help. Despite his obvious discomfort, General Patterson managed to nod his consent. She quickly assessed his condition, checking his pulse and asking about his symptoms. The general confirmed he was experiencing chest pain and difficulty breathing, classic signs of a potential heart attack. Maria knew that every minute counted in such situations. While waiting for the medical team to arrive, Maria helped the general loosen his uniform jacket and encouraged him to remain calm and breathe slowly. She instructed the security officers to clear some space around the table and asked someone to bring aspirin if available. Her nursing training had taught her that aspirin could help during a heart attack, though she was careful to ask about allergies first. The general's security detail, initially skeptical of her involvement, now followed her instructions as they recognized her competence and the seriousness of the situation. The base medical team arrived within minutes, but those few minutes felt like hours to Maria. She provided them with a clear, concise report of the general's symptoms and the timeline of events she had observed. The medics immediately began their assessment and confirmed that the general appeared to be having a cardiac event. They quickly administered oxygen and prepared him for transport to the base hospital. As the medical team worked, General Patterson reached out and grasped Maria's hand weakly. Through his oxygen mask, he managed to whisper a heartfelt thank you, his eyes conveying the gratitude that his words couldn't fully express. Maria felt tears welling up in her eyes as she realized the gravity of what had just happened. Her decision to trust her instincts and act on her concerns had potentially saved the life of one of the most important military leaders on the base. The general was quickly stabilized and transported to the hospital, where doctors confirmed that he had indeed suffered a heart attack. The rapid response and early intervention that Maria had initiated played a crucial role in minimizing the damage to his heart and likely saved his life. What had started as an ordinary lunch service had become an extraordinary moment of heroism for a woman who simply refused to ignore her instincts when someone needed help. In the days following the incident, Maria found herself at the center of attention throughout Fort Henderson. Word spread quickly about how the cafeteria worker had potentially saved General Patterson's life, and she was treated as a hero by soldiers and staff alike. The base commander's office contacted her personally to express their gratitude and to gather a detailed account of what had happened. Maria remained humble throughout these interactions, insisting that she had simply done what anyone with her training would have done. General Patterson spent several days in the hospital, recovering from what doctors confirmed was a significant heart attack. The cardiologist explained that the early intervention and rapid response had prevented much more serious damage to his heart muscle. Without Maria's quick recognition of the symptoms and decisive action, the general might have suffered a massive heart attack that could have been fatal. The medical team credited her observational skills and courage with making the difference between a recoverable cardiac event and a potential tragedy. The story caught the attention of local media, and soon Maria found herself being interviewed by reporters who wanted to know more about the woman who had saved the general's life. She spoke honestly about her background, her incomplete nursing education, and her motivation to help when she saw someone in distress. Her genuine humility and obvious sincerity made her an instant local celebrity. though she remained uncomfortable with the attention, and insisted that her actions were simply the result of basic human compassion. Base leadership decided to formally recognize Maria's heroism. Plans were made for a special ceremony where she would receive a civilian commendation for her life-saving actions. The announcement of this recognition brought even more attention to her story, with military personnel from across the region expressing their admiration for her courage and quick thinking. Many noted that her actions exemplified the best values of military service. Even though she was a civilian employee, Maria used the platform that her newfound fame provided to talk about the importance of basic medical training and the value of trusting one's instincts when someone appears to be in distress. She encouraged others to take first aid and CPR classes, emphasizing that ordinary people could make extraordinary differences in emergency situations. Her story became a teaching tool for recognizing the signs of medical emergencies and the importance of taking action even when uncertain. The incident also prompted Maria to reflect on her own life and goals. The experience had reminded her of her passion for helping others and her natural aptitude for medical situations. She began considering whether it might be possible to return to nursing school and complete her education. The recognition she received for her actions had given her confidence that she had valuable skills and instincts that could serve others in a medical career. General Patterson's recovery progressed well, and he made it clear through his staff that he wanted to personally thank Maria once he was released from the hospital. The prospect of this meeting filled her with nervous excitement, as she had never imagined she would have a personal conversation with such a high-ranking military officer. Yet she looked forward to the opportunity to see for herself that her quick actions had truly made a difference in saving a life. 2 weeks after the incident, General Patterson returned to active duty with a clean bill of health from his doctors. His first official act was to visit the cafeteria where Maria worked, not as a patient this time, but as a grateful man seeking to properly thank the woman who had saved his life. The entire kitchen staff was assembled for what they were told would be a routine visit, but Maria suspected something special was planned when she saw the formal setup in the presence of several photographers. When General Patterson entered the cafeteria, he walked directly to Maria and embraced her warmly, an unprecedented gesture from such a high-ranking officer. With genuine emotion in his voice, he told her that doctors had confirmed her quick action had prevented a massive heart attack that likely would have killed him. He presented her with a special civilian medal for heroism, the highest honor that could be bestowed on a non-military person for life-saving actions. The entire cafeteria erupted in applause as Maria accepted the award with tears in her eyes, but the general's gratitude extended beyond the formal recognition. During their private conversation after the ceremony, he learned about Maria's interrupted nursing education and her financial struggles. Moved by her story and impressed by her natural medical instincts, he arranged for her to receive a full scholarship to complete her nursing degree at a nearby university. The scholarship covered not only tuition but also living expenses, allowing her to focus entirely on her studies without financial worry. The announcement of the scholarship created another wave of media attention. With Maria's story inspiring people across the country, she received letters from aspiring nurses, medical students, and ordinary citizens who were motivated by her example of courage and compassion. Many nursing schools reached out to offer additional support and mentorship opportunities, recognizing her as someone who embodied the best qualities of the nursing profession. Maria accepted the scholarship and enrolled in nursing school that fall, 3 years after she had been forced to drop out due to financial hardship. Her experience in the cafeteria and her life-saving actions had given her a confidence and sense of purpose that transformed her approach to her studies. She excelled in her classes, particularly in emergency medicine and cardiac care, areas where her real-world experience provided valuable perspective that textbooks couldn't teach. Throughout her nursing education, Maria maintained contact with General Patterson, who became something of a mentor and advocate for her career. He often spoke publicly about how her actions had not only saved his life, but also demonstrated the value of supporting education and recognizing talent wherever it might be found. Their friendship became a symbol of how extraordinary circumstances could bring together people from very different backgrounds united by shared values of service and compassion. Graduating with honors and passing her nursing boards, Maria was offered a position in the cardiac unit of the base hospital, where General Patterson had been treated. Her first day on the job brought the story full circle, from serving food in the cafeteria to serving as a professional nurse in the same medical facility where her quick thinking had helped save a life. The journey from lunch server to registered nurse had been made possible by a moment of courage that proved how one person's willingness to act could change not just one life, but two lives forever.